Hey everyone, Michael here with Hello Cupcake It's Me, and today is the Saturday check-in. It's May 17th, 2025, and isn't it a time to be alive or some shit? I don't know. If you haven't done so already, hit like and subscribe. Then head on over to podcast.hellocupcakeitsme.com to check out the podcast that is updated every Thursday. And head on over to hellocupcakeitsme.com to give the blog some love. Been blogging quite a bit lately, so there's some new entries over there. And that's, I said hellocupcakeitsme.com. And make sure you follow me on all the different social medias and check out my book, Carpe Diem Scroto 365 Daily Affirmations at www.cdsthebook.com. So, how is everyone doing? It is a little bit later in the morning here in the good old Pacific Northwest. At the time of recording this, it is 10:26. And I've been awake pretty much since 7, just laying in bed, doom scrolling, watching videos, and clapping back to some trolls who thought it was going to be a good thing to try and come for me. Like, don't come for me unless I make you or call you. So, yeah, you can try the samples at Costco. You can try the McRib Witch. You can try Jenny Craig. You can try the carnivore diet. You could try Jesus, but don't try me. There's a lot of times where one of the altars come out and is like, fuck you and everything about you. Fuck you, fuck your family tree. I hope it dies at the roots. Like, and for those of you who don't know what altars are, if you've been following along for any period of time, you will have known that I was recently diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder. And one of the identities that has been curated through trauma or whatever else is a very gruff, aggressive, in your face, fuck you type of a person. So, there's going to be times in my media that I will talk about my different personalities as they have arisen in therapy and what they are, who they are, and their role within the system. Just giving you like a little brief introduction to dissociative identity disorder. It used to be called multiple personality disorder, but we in the mental health community decided that, that was just, there was too much of a negative stereotype to that. And like all good science, all good medicine, and all good practices, things get redeveloped, relabeled, rebranded, reevaluated. And so it's been agreed upon throughout the entire mental health community that this is, we're going to call it dissociative identity disorder. Sometimes there's OSDD, and I honestly don't remember what OSDD is, but it's, kissing cousins with DID. So anyways, DID is created from what is called an internal family structure, which is parts of yourself that are created during times of stress, times of trauma, so on and so forth. So some people have monologues in their head and it sounds like their own voice or whatever. Other people don't have monologues. And then there's a third class of people who have inner monologues that have distinct voices and characteristics and comorbidity, morbidity, not mobility, comorbidities associated with that particular identity or alter. And when somebody says system, they're talking about everything going on in the head and the main body or the host or whatever. You'll also hear people talking about fronting and co-fronting. Fronting is that personality that comes forward and through understanding who the person is as a collective, you can tell like when a new personality is fronting, or you could see the shift happening within the person. So their body language, like their tone of voice, the way that they speak, sometimes it might even be with an accent. If somebody is like a, constantly like in eye contact with you and then they start to like look off or like look everywhere else but still maintaining a conversation, that could be a shift and that could be a personality trait of that alter that the person shifted into. So I don't know all of the ins and outs about it, and as a lot of you know, that I am a certified peer counselor for the state of Washington, and that I also take a tremendous amount of online courses um, regarding mental health, and that I started that whole journey to learn more about myself. And this is something I've done my entire life with different voices in my head and taking on these personality traits. And I just thought that that's, what everyone did. I didn't realize that this was actually like a trauma response. So there is so far 9 identified um, personalities, alters, whatever else. Uh, Collectively, the system has been named main me, which is the person and the identity that is consistently fronting. Now you can have a co-fronter, which has 2 personalities interacting at the same time. The best way that I can describe that is like 2 people standing in a window looking out of it. They're kind of pushed up against the glass, but looking out at it. With the comorbidity issues, personality A and personality B could have completely different symptoms, completely different traumas, complete different lore. And when working with a therapist, the therapist will help you identify that part of you, identify its existing conditions, and if those existing conditions overlap with any other of the identities, and help you become more homogenized. And so when I first got this diagnosis, I was really scared about what that meant because, at 44 years old, I thought I knew everything there was to know about myself. And I've always kind of like talked to my imaginary friends, and come to find out that was actually just me communicating with the other parts of me that have compartmentalized different aspects of my life, like the sexual abuse trauma, the childhood trauma, the abuse, like the physical abuse, the tormenting, the having to be professional and studious at work, and all these different things kind of like fractured but whole. So, all of that to say that last night, one of the personalities was co-fronting, and I'm so absolutely tired of people talking out of their ass, being wrong, but speaking loudly, like somehow their loudness is going to prove how right they are, when in actuality it's literally putting up a huge like red flag beacon saying, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, but this is a sincerely held conviction that I have, and because I believe this, therefore, I'm right and you're wrong. Now, that statement is not meant to disregard anyone else, okay? And I know that there are those people out there that it's like, well, that's how I feel about transgendered people. Just because you want to call yourself a woman, just because you want to use they, them pronouns, just because you want to do this, that, or the other, does not mean that I have to fall in line with your mental illness. Okay. By the way, this is not the direction that I wanted this video to go, but here we are. So it's probably going to be a long one. Buckle up, pause, go grab some coffee, get yourself a snack, because we're going to be here in a minute. Sexual identity, gender dysphoria, and transgendered persons are not a mental issue. Let's cut that out again. They are not mental issues. They are not mental issues. They are not mental issues. Now, just because you want something to be a mental illness or mental health related or whatever else does not mean that it was or is. Or take out the was, does not mean that it is. However, previously in psychology and mental health and all that other stuff, certain things were considered mental health issues and mental health illnesses. And just like we used to think that, oh, the person's got too much blood, let's cut them and drain some blood, put some leeches on them, they're going to be fine. Fast forward to modern day medical and psychological stuff, we now find that gender identity and gender dysphoria and transgenderism are all kind of on the same spectrum of life. There are those persons who are born with an extra chromosome that are not like Down syndrome or whatever else, but like XXY or XY or XXY, any number of chromosomes. For those of you who don't remember your ninth grade biology class, men are born with XY chromosomes, and that, because of the Y that creates the man, it converts the clitoris into a penis, the ovaries into testicles, and everything closes up, and there you go. And then there's testosterone that like causes voice, causes facial features, facial hair, so on and so forth. So we have all the chromosomes that are typically considered male. And then you have females that are born with XX chromosomes, which means instead of forming a penis, that those chromosomes say, okay, well, we are going to introduce more estrogen into this development, and this is what is going to be typically a female. The reason I say typically is because there are times when people are born with XXY chromosomes that are born looking female but have the genitalia of both male and female. And sometimes at birth, parents are asked, okay, well, the clitoris on your daughter is under, we'll say, 3 centimeters. So this means that she is going to, or that this child is going to develop atypically like a female. And so that is going to then, okay, well, I guess let's make her a female because the child is presenting both male and female anatomy. And the way that would happen is that there would be like a longer clitoris and the presence of testicles with a vaginal opening or any number of combinations therein. So sexual assignment at birth has and does happen. And then later on the child grows up and it's like, I really feel like I should be a boy because more of the like Y chromosome and the testosterone production in that child is like, I'm developing like a boy, I'm not developing like a girl. Now, there are other times where there's no genitalia issues. I can't think of the correct terminology for it, but anyways, the child grows up being that like tomboy or being a little softer than what a boy or a girl should be. And are a little rougher than a girl should be, a little softer than what a boy should be. And sometimes those persons later on in life either become part of, well, sometimes those persons become gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender. Like, I am a fully presenting female, but I feel like I'm a man, so I'm going to go have gender affirming care provided to me. And then that's when mastectomies happen and the lower part of the anatomy is altered to present more as male or more as female. So, anyways, long story short, the person who was coming for me is trying to attack me using religion, using pseudoscience, using outdated thoughts, practices, and beliefs, using their own ignorance as like intelligence and backing for what they want to say and what they want to do and like the agenda that they're trying to push, so on and so forth. Sometime in the late 90s, mid 2000s, the idea of this gay agenda appeared in the universe where, all the homosexuals want to make your children homosexual so that they can be perverted with them. And the whole idea of like sexual assault and rape of a gay male and a child or a gay woman and a child comes from the 1930s, 40s, 50s, and into the 60s that, homophobe, like that's about the time that homophobia really kind of started taking root here in America. And we had the lavender scare of the 30s and 40s, and that kind of lasted into the 50s. Think of it as like a witch hunt, but for gay people. And that's where the term lavender marriages come from. It's where a lesbian and a gay man would marry each other, present to the community, their friends, their coworkers, whatever else, as this loving straight couple, have the 2.5 kids, the house with the white picket fence or whatever, but Uncle Bob and Aunt Janice are actually, dad's boyfriend and mom's girlfriend. And anyways, so they are, the argument right now is, should transgendered students be allowed to play the sports of their choice, of their, assumed sexual identity? And first of all, the entirety of the anger and the issues that are surrounding this topic are just asinine. And when we apply it to those under 18, gets kind of fucking pervy and gets kind of yucky because, yeah, teenagers are sexual beings. We don't want to admit that or whatever, but as teens, most of us, once we started having sexual relationships with our friends and our boyfriends and girlfriends or whatever, we continued that into our adult life. But, taking it a step further than that, though, putting that all aside, it is literally grown people thinking about the genitalias of children. And somewhere in the political social sphere of the Republicans, there's this belief that your kid's going to go to school as little Jimmy and little Susie and come home Bobby and Tiffany. And it's like, y'all, the schools can't even get free lunch. The teachers can't even get crayons for their classroom. The teachers can't even get the students to turn in their fucking homework, and you expect that your children are going to go to school, get a sexual reassignment surgery, and then come home and that's it? Like, come on, think about it. Teachers are not trying to convert your children. Teachers are there to protect your children, to give your children education, to give your children knowledge, to give your children vocabulary, to give your children voice, to give your children safe space, to give your children the chance to grow, flourish, and become the person that they feel and think that they need to be. So, when it comes to the argument, you always hear about transgenders being in female spaces. So men pretending to be female, pretending to be female so they have access to female areas like changing rooms, locker rooms, the whole nine yards. Men do not need to put on a dress to commit a sexual crime. Full stop. If somebody is going to be sexually violent, they do not need to put on a dress to do so. But it always is focusing on men transitioning into women. You never hear the story of women transitioning into men, and now these trans males being in men's spaces where they, if found out, could have sexual assaults and sexual crimes committed against them just as easily as everyone believes that a trans male, or I'm sorry, a trans female going into a woman's restroom can cause these crimes. I have transgender family members and I have transgender friends, and I have been around them enough to know that 9 times out of 10, the gender that they are transitioning to, male to female, female to male, they are attracted to the heterosexual version of that transition. So if it's a female transitioning into a male, they will then still pursue females like a heterosexual male would. So there's a lot of queer history and LGBTQIA stuff that revolves around what happens to female to male transgender persons. Brandon Tina is a very good example of that. And if you don't want to look up who Brandon Tina is, but you want to watch a movie, it's called Boys Don't Cry, starring Hilary Swank. Hilary Swank portrays Brandon Tina, who was a transgendered person. And when the small town found out that he was actually a she, the men of the town, a couple of the men in the town, got together, beat the shit out of him, and raped him, and left him to die, in which he did die. So, all of that coming at me in a chat room or Facebook post or whatever, and just trying to like speak sensibly to people. Like, no, it's just not happening. And we sip. So I have been dealing a lot with that lately. A lot of that lately. And just general changes happening in the community that don't need to be happening in the community, that are not in the community's best interest and not in the economic growth of the community's interest. And I hate that in this stage of my life, I have become so enamored with local politics that it's just like, when did this become me? Like 10 years ago, I wouldn't give a damn about local politics, and I didn't give a damn about local politics, but now it's just like, wow, you are dumb, you are wrong, and you are speaking loudly about it. And it's always the people that are the loudest and most anti something that secretly are all about that. But anyways, so yeah, there's a lot of things happening in town. Like downtown is becoming paid parking. Everywhere you go, paid parking. And I think that that's okay for the tourists that come to our town, but that the persons who live here, we should not have to pay to access our own downtown. We should not have to pay to access the shops and the things that we who live here 24/7, 365 go to and shop at. We shouldn't have to pay for that. Like, that needs to be a tourism tax. And there needs to be some kind of like placard or something created by the city that allows us to display it in our window that we are residents and that we don't have to pay to be in these parking spaces. And it all started off with a new bank coming in downtown and taking the parking lot directly behind them and turning that into paid parking. Our downtown only has that one parking area. The other parking area is at a plaza, and then there's street parking and some off the street parking. But for the most part, those are the only two places that people could park to access the entirety of the downtown systems and the businesses and restaurants and so on and so forth. Everyone is always screaming about the downtown. Downtown needs to be protected. Downtown needs to be this. Downtown needs to be that. We can't have big box stores coming in like Walmart or Costco or whatever because we need to keep our mom and pop shops up and going. Blah 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 blah. Then they go ahead and they do this bullshit. So on that particular post, everyone's like, well, I'm not shopping downtown anymore. I'm not shopping downtown anymore, blah, blah. And some of the business owners are like, no, listen, we can give you a 1 hour access code. Still come to us, please. But if I get a 1 hour access code from you, and then I go to any of the other places downtown, by the time I've walked through all the shops or whatever else, my hour is done. If we stop and have lunch or something, my hour is done just waiting on the damn lunch to get served. So it's just interesting and unique and a backwards progress of what needs to happen in town. So anyways, there's all of that. Getting into some more lighter haha type of stuff. This whole next week, my friends and I from the pool, we are going to be going to other facilities because the pool is going to be closed this week so that the city can finally do some much needed repairs on the locker rooms. And it's basically slapping a band-aid on a leaking dam because the pool and the entire facility actually needs to be rebuilt. When the pool was built back in the 50s or 60s, it was an outdoor pool. And then they decided that they were going to enclose it, but they never updated the architectural and structural foundations of the pool. And so they just built this, at the time, coded building. Actually, I don't even know if you needed to have permits and codes, but anyways, they built this whole huge building around the pool. And over the years, there's foundational issues that have arisen that is causing it to sink and to break and to systematically fall apart. And around this time last year, we had a flood that took out the broiler and all kinds of other stuff. And then they found black mold and it was just a big jumbled bullshit of a mess. And the pool was actually closed for about 2 months, I think, at that point, while they got everything up and going. Well, for the last year and a half, 2 years, they have been talking about building another pool. And no one can seem to agree as to where it should be. The people in the south part of the county don't want another luxury thing for the northern part of the county, and so the spaces in town, people have been bitching and complaining, and like, no, you can't put it here because this is natural wetlands, and it's not natural wetlands. It used to be natural wetlands, but most of the town, the wetlands was covered up, and and the marshlands were covered up and created the town as it is now. There's a golf course that has, I want to say 20, we'll say about 30 acres of land that their lease is up on. They got to lease it for 75 or 100 years. Anyways, the lease is up on that. No one ever really utilizes the golf course. For the longest time, if you even tried to walk on the golf course, you would get ran off by security or whatever else. And they don't ever really keep it up. In the summer months, the grass is dead and just not a very pleasant looking place. So people were talking about turning that area into affordable housing and turning it into the new recreational center for the entire county. Well, South County residents was like, "Oh, I'm not going to pay more taxes." People around town, "I'm not going to pay more taxes." Not realizing that for the last 15 years, they have been paying that tax, if not longer, in the form of a municipality tax, but whatever. So, anyways, next week, our pool is going to be closed. We're going to go elsewhere. And yeah, so I'm kind of looking forward to that because I've wanted to look at a couple of the different pool options in our area. One of them is 50 or 60 miles one way, and then the other direction is 40, 50 miles, give or take, the other way. And so, yeah, it's just going to be a fun week of exploring these new places, um, going out for lunch with my friends, and just, something different for the routine. Um, and tonight, I have a concert that I'm going to at my bar that I like, the little local bar that I go and I play trivia at. And I'm kind of looking forward to that, but at the same time, I'm not, because the last time I went and heard this particular band, my ears hurt so goddamn bad. It wasn't even funny. But this time I have noise canceling earplugs. They go to negative 23 decibels. And I also have gun range earmuffs. So I'm going to get my gun range earmuffs and those, put them in, and sit there and listen to it. And just, I know it's excessive. Like, you're going to listen to music, so why are you going to do all that? Well, I have sensitive hearing, and I'm only going because the bar has asked me to record the band playing, and because my sister and her boyfriend are supposed to be there. So and I don't feel like cooking dinner tonight, so I can eat at the bar. And their special tonight is all you can eat spaghetti for like $11.99, and you get this huge heaping mound of spaghetti and 2 pieces of garlic Texas toast. So I don't know if I'm actually going to have that tonight or if I'm just going to do a burger or something. But it should be fun and interesting. And yeah, that's not all that I have to say right now, but a good majority of it. And so I'm just going to go ahead and stop now because we're at almost 42 minutes. I'm sorry, 40 minutes. We're at 40 minutes right now, getting ready to go into 41 minutes. So, anyways, sorry about the long rant. Like I said, there's so much more that I could go into about all of this. And, in June, when it's Pride Month, I start talking about LGBTQIA histories and persons therein, and just bringing to light things that have happened within the gay community and stuff like that. So, if there's any particular thing that you would like to know any information about that I haven't covered in my last 2 years worth of videos spotlighting that, let me know. They are going to be their own separate videos. They're not going to be part of the Tuesday, or they're not going to be part of the Wednesday and Saturday check-in videos. It's going to be its own spotlighted segment, and yeah, just kind of go from there. So if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, put them in the comment section down below. And thank you for watching this far along. Leave a comment and let me know, like, give a little thumbs up or a happy face or something if you made it all the way through. And like I said, if there's any topics or anything like that that you would want me to cover in future videos, please let me know. I did do a user requested video about my time as a caregiver and when I worked in the nursing industry and caregiving industry. So, I love doing Q&A videos like that. So, like I said, questions, comments, concerns, put them in the comment section down below or shoot me an email, hellocupcakeitsme@gmail.com. And I will talk to you all then. Don't add to the population. Don't take away from the population. Be safe. Don't let the Karens get to you. And I will talk to you all later. Bye, guys.